Hello and welcome to the GMS Magazine podcast, a podcast all about board games, role-playing games, and the people who make them, sometimes also the people who play them. I am Paco Garcia, your host, and at least this is how I've been introducing this podcast for a number of years, but that, my friends, is going to change. This is a very special episode of the podcast because I want to do two things with it. One is that I'm going to interview Justin Achilli. Justin has been an absolute pillar of the RPG industry for decades. His pedigree speaks for itself, and it has become pretty obvious thanks to Our Brilliant Ruin, a game that they released at Hermitage Studio, his company. They released after a successful Kickstarter, and it's a game that kind of mixes cosmic horror with Downtown Abbey or Upstairs Downstairs, for those of you old enough to remember that show from the 70s. And if you haven't watched it, trust me, do yourself a favor and do it because it is absolutely riveting. Anyway, Our Brilliant Ruin was successful in Kickstarter a little while ago, and now it's going to come back in September 2025 so they can fund a starter set to make it even more accessible for people who don't want a massive tome full of just lore, but want something more accessible, quicker to prepare, and a lot easier to run. And I had an awful lot of questions about it. And believe me, Justin is an absolutely fantastic interview. Before going on to the interview, though, I have a bit of an announcement to make. As you can see, I am alone. I am not with Chris this time. And this is not because Chris is not coming back. Oh, no. Trust me. He is going to come back, and so am I. The podcast is going to change. Over the years, this podcast has been a creative outlet for myself, so I could do some media production, but also so I could meet some of the most amazing people in the world of role-playing games. And I have made some fantastic friends that I hope I will be able to treasure that friendship forever. Over the last few years, though, Chris and we've had a great time doing the podcast, but I do feel like I need to make a change because this podcast has always been about empowering creators. This has been about people who make games, whether it's been board games or role-playing games. But I have to say that my true passion is about publishing role-playing games. It's one thing that I feel pretty much anyone should be able to do. And I know that there are so many people out there who want to do it, and they're not sure how to do it. They're not sure how to start, if they should continue with their idea or not. But also, I know a lot of people who are doing it and they're stumbling along the road because, let's face it, this is very much a trial and error sort of endeavor. And I don't want that. I've been publishing role-playing games for a number of years, and I have spoken with enough people to get a good grasp as to what mistakes are done, what things are not taken into consideration, what things should be taken into consideration. And I want this podcast to become a haven for people who want to publish and be able to learn. So from now on, the podcast is going to have that focus. To start with, it's all going to be about how to publish role-playing games, how to write role-playing games, the world, how to navigate the contracts, how to navigate production, all of that. If I get the time, because believe me, my life is very busy indeed, I would love to extend that to board games also, but then that would be something that I would need to learn myself, because although I love board games and I know about how to play them and what makes a board game good, how to create one, how to manufacture it, I don't know enough about it, so maybe this will be a learning curve for me also. I don't know, but at the very least, role-playing games, yes, we're going to be covering that. So if you have any questions about how to publish a role-playing game, how to go about writing a role-playing game, please let me know. All the interviews we're going to be doing will be focused on that topic, even if we talk about specific games. And I really want to help you, the geek who have thought at some point about creating your own role-playing game, to realize your dream, to make it tangible. I would love to hear success stories of people saying, yes, Paco, I have published my role-playing game. Because, as I said, everyone should be able, and everyone, deserves the possibility of doing it. So please, any questions, anything you want to know, let me know so we can investigate, we can create podcasts, episodes about it, we can bring people who will answer those questions, and hopefully we can help you out to make your dreams come true. So without further ado, my dear friends, thank you so much for being there. It's always an absolute pleasure, and I will talk to you very soon. Here is Justin Achilli. Justin, welcome to the show. Absolutely fantastic having you here. After, I have to say, Tim is incredibly patient because we've been trying to arrange this interview for ages and ages, but we've managed at last. How are you, sir?
We did. All it takes is a little perseverance. We made it happen. Great to see you, Paco. Great to talk to you.
Okay, so we're here because you kind of, no, not kind of, you really, broke the mark with Our Brilliant Ruin in many ways. Because the Kickstarter at the time was really successful. The topic of the game is like, holy shit, this is weird, but how can this possibly work? And yes, it does. And it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I when we built the team, I knew exactly the art director I wanted to work with. We were fortunate to have a senior concept artist who immediately, boom, got what we were doing. And so, we had the concept mentally, and we hit the ground running with it visually. I'm so glad to hear that you like how it looks. Oh, that's so fulfilling.
It looks absolutely gorgeous. So before we go into our Brilliant Ruin starter set, which is something that's going to be coming to Kickstarter soon after this interview is taking place. But for those who still haven't heard from Studio Hermitage, and what are you trying to do? Because you have an absolutely, I mean, it is not an exaggeration to say that you have a glorious career in gaming, both TTRPG, board games, video games, before coming to Studio Hermitage. So why Studio Hermitage when you could be just enjoying the glory that you have so deservedly earned over the years and doing something as hard as starting a studio? Why?
Oh, I'm getting the glaze. Oh, I'm glad we got this call put together. This feels good.
I know how to talk to my guests and make them feel good, but I never lie. So there you go. Everything I said was true.
Well, thank you, thank you. No, that's wonderful to hear. First of all, the reason, what we're trying to do and why we wanted to do it. This was a chance for me to, having spent so many years on, World of Darkness and working in video games on things like Assassin's Creed and Dune and all those sorts of things. This was a chance to do our own thing from the ground up. And don't get me wrong, I love World of Darkness and I love Assassin's Creed and I love all the big stuff that I've worked on. But this was a chance to kind of take a small team and do a very focused thing while still taking all of the stuff that we learned from working on those other projects into this opportunity. So we started the studio as a true transmedia studio where we knew we wanted to make a video game. And so planning to make a video game, we built the tabletop RPG, which also serves as our world Bible. So, because we were going to do this anyway, because every, video game needs a world Bible, we just did ours so that it's playable as well. And that lets us bring people onto the team and say, here, the game plays like this. Here's what it's about. Here are the kind of themes that are important. But also, we jumped right into the other media expressions as well. We started with the tabletop RPG, and we did with Dark Horse, the comic book. We've got the three comic series that Cullen Bunn did, and that's all being collected into an omnibus edition for later this year. We did the audio drama, which has some great voice talent on there. Kate Siegel, Indira Varma, Byron Mann, all kinds of wonderful talent in the audio drama there too. And of course, it's all kind of pointing toward the bread and butter of our studio, which is going to be the video game. I just, in fact, 15 minutes ago, came out of our weekly sync, our Wednesday What's Going On meeting for that. And so, that is all full steam ahead. We've got the full team cranking away on that. And so, that is the intent here, is to be able to take all the stuff that we learned in working on those other awesome things and do a new awesome thing.
Now, I'm very curious about one thing, and I don't know if you will be able to answer this question, and it's got nothing, it's not particularly related to our Brilliant Ruin or anything, but I think what you said about making a world Bible that you can use makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
And it was a number of years ago that I kind of made a prediction that hasn't really fully fulfilled, and is that more role-playing games were going to be made for video games and TV series because it was a very, relatively speaking, cheap way to create something that can be usable and is a good marketing tool. You are doing exactly that.
Mhm.
You're taking something that you can use for anything else that you're going to be doing in the studio, and yet people can play it. Why aren't more people doing that? Because I think it's a very, I don't know, sensical, if that's the word,
Mhm. Mhm.
way to act. Why aren't more people doing it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like a tabletop role-playing game is a wonderful way to experience a world. And I think maybe what gets in the way of more people doing that is it's still sort of a comparatively niche hobby. When I sit down to watch a show, I can sit down and watch a show, and the show is, zoom beamed into my eyes and into my ears. But for a tabletop game, somebody's got to run the game. Okay, so that means we need to build a game that has, low prep time or something. If you're going to invite casual people into it, it can't be this thing where you've got to spend 40 hours a week planning your campaign, right? And as adults, we have to make our schedules work together. So we need to plan ahead for, is this a 4-hour block that we're carving out 3 weeks from now that all of us can get together at your house? Paco, how do we schedule all this with busy lives? And so I think what you're seeing a lot of in many cases is games that are specifically set up to be low prep. But in terms of how do you make that in a schedule that is friendly to it, I think a lot of the big license holders aren't necessarily thinking in terms of smaller niche play games. A lot of them are even more focused on traditional media, which is that told sequentially A to B to C.
Mm.
You watch it, it's put in front of you, or a comic, you read the comic or watch the movie. Whereas interactivity is a huge and different part of what's going on. I remember probably about a year or so ago, Matt Forbeck was talking about it. He was saying, like, given the chance to write a novel about a thing or make a game about a thing, it's way faster and easier to make the novel because you don't have to build all the systems and you already have a lot of the material to draw on. And so even though it's more interactive, even though it's more, engages the player more, it's tougher to build a game, I think. And so there's that kind of hurdle.
In terms of the development of our Brilliant Ruin and the video game itself, how much has one fed from the other? I'm saying, how much has the video game been affected by the development of the world in the TTRPG and vice versa? Because some things in games, in video games, you cannot really do well or as well as you do in role-playing games. So how much have they really, how much did you have to reconcile between the two products?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot of times in video games, you've got more of a kind of second-to-second interaction, right? You click something and there's a feedback. There's VFX or sound effects, or the game system takes place. Whereas, in a tabletop role-playing game, we talk it through, and I'm going to cast the spell. Okay, how does the spell look? It looks like this. Oh, I succeeded. Okay, the person, so there's more back and forth there. But for the video game, it all processes very quickly. And so a lot of how the TTRPG informs the game is thematically. It's not a perfect one-to-one. In the tabletop game, you've got a 3 in this and a 2 in this and a 1 in this. The video game behaves with its own logic, but draws significantly on the thematics of the game, or of the tabletop game. So, for example, in the tabletop game, passion gives you extra dice and makes you more likely to succeed when you spend it. But in the video game, passion may be a state where the character is doing bonus damage, or is extra stealthy, or is super smooth talking and always gets their outcome. So, just kind of how we handle the systems is different, but the fact that those systems are present and the things that they're trying to do is very consistent. We do want you to feel like this is a passionate character. Here is a character who is loyal. Here is a character who is ingenious and duplicitous. Since we build a lot of the character traits on adjectives as opposed to raw physical power like strength, dexterity, constitution, all of those things come through, I think, really well. Plus, it gives us a good thing to write toward as we build the game narrative as well.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, let's talk in that case about the game Our Brilliant Ruin, because it's existential drama.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, Tell me a little bit about how does the game handle that? Because I think it's one of the things that an awful lot of games try to do, but I reckon that the moment that you try to mechanize, existentialism within games, it's very, very tough. Not many games do it well. How does Our Brilliant Ruin achieve it?
Yeah, that's great. The fundamentals of the game are very kind of Edwardian aesthetic, right? There's a sense of upstairs, downstairs, class dynamics. We've got aristocrats who own everything and have all the resources, and then there's the true folk who actually do all the work and keep the world running. And then we've got the unbonded at the kind of outside of society who are trying to change things, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. So there's this, constant social and class-based push-pull among all of the characters of the game, because we anticipate you're going to build, a very cosmopolitan group. You might have an aristocrat or two, and a true folk or two, maybe an unbonded who's joining you, or you can do it all in one faction. But there's that kind of fundamental, how do humans get along, drama at the center of it all, right? There's your Downton Abbey bit right there, going back to our Edwardian aesthetics. And then, of course, since it's, Justin working on it, and Rachel, my co-author, co-designer, and Pam Punzalan, who contributed as well, people who are very familiar with working with the fantastical and the horrific. And so amid all of this social drama, we've got the end of the world happening. And so when the end of the world is coming, is all of this social drama that important? Where do you set the line at, I want to do this before my time runs out? Do you want to raise an estate from complete abandonment back to functioning again? Are you going to try to save as many people from the ruin as possible? It's coming, the end is coming. How do you deal with it? And so, kind of like what I was talking about a moment ago, we don't really care about your strength or your dexterity. We care about, are you loyal to other players? Are you ingenious in how you solve problems? Are you defiant and going to shake your fist and kick everything apart at the end of the world? That existentialism really manifests in how the players express their personalities and how the characters emotionally accomplish their goals. And that's why there's systems like passion in there too. The base dice system, you roll the dice and you're looking for sixes, which are brills. You don't want glooms, which are ones. So you've really kind of got an equal likelihood of success or catastrophe. So use passion, right? Like dump passion in there. When you feel strongly about it, let that bleed into it, because here comes the end of the world. Is this something you care about enough to make happen?
In terms of the horror of the game as well, because obviously being a game in which the world is about to finish, and quite frankly, some of the, I mean, you only have to look at some of the illustrations to see that this is not a comedy game.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
may have some aspects that you look at and you think, oh my God, how are you going to be a pray tell about this so high society thing? But um, yeah, this is also a horror game. How how does it handle it?
The horror expressed in our Brilliant Ruin is very personal, and again, you can tell that we're drawing on a lot of World of Darkness experience with this. The world of our Brilliant Ruin doesn't have, zombies or a million goblins that are out there running around. All of the monsters that you'll encounter were people at one time, and may even be people that you knew. So this may be your wife or your husband or your lover or a sibling, or a person you worked with that you have a tremendous amount of respect for. So the horror in our Brilliant Ruin comes across more like Frankenstein, or Dracula, where there's these very significant individuals who have, their own motivations, and those are very often going to be in conflict with yours, right? In some cases, it's obvious the vampire wants to kill you and drink your blood, but in some cases, it's like, oh no, my husband has turned into this horrible chimera. My husband is now a werewolf, or the emotional resonance of my wife is now stuck in the house and remembering the time when we lost our child to the ruin. And so all of these are very, very personal. They're very upfront. They make the horror very individual, as opposed to kind of an overall sense of, monsters are everywhere, everything is gray, everything sucks, it's terrible. Because there's these personal stakes are so high, that's really why you want to overcome it with what little time you have left. Oh, can I please just have a few beautiful moments before the end of the world?
I'm getting, and this is very good. I am getting huge Penny Dreadful vibes.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely an influence there. Yep.
Okay, okay. Now I am. Oh God, now I am very excited because Penny Dreadful, apart from a few episodes from the third season, is one of my favorite series ever. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Tell me a bit about the world itself. Why is it ending? What's going on?
Yeah, great question. The world itself, it's known as the Dremark. And some amount of time ago, a distant star far, far away from us died. And so all of the starlight, all of the dead starlight from this star has now made its way to our world and is interacting malignantly with our world. That dead starlight is corroding the world. It's turning people into monsters. It's particularly drawn to metal. So all of these, tools and implements and things that people have, depended on for a long time are now rusting, corroding away, or in fact even make more monsters. So it's forced people to be very creative in their problem solving. So you see things like, there's a lot more ceramic and kind of wood, metal alternatives in the world. There aren't a lot of metal coins. We've now moved to paper notes or ceramic chits. We have kind of our plastic analog, similar to Bakelite in the real world. In our Brilliant Ruin, it's called polyresin. So kind of creatively, people have had to work around this, but there's still that sense of Belle Epoque, of this being a wonderful time where there are a tremendous amount of resources. It's a time of scientific explosion. We've had to learn all of these new things to deal with the wake of ruin. So you get that Gilded Age sense of things that are changing and getting better, but you know that the sands are running out in the hour, the hourglass there. And so these grand Gilded Age, Downton Abbey estates, or that wonderful visual presentation that's present in Penny Dreadful, right? Everyone looks great because you're running out of time. You might as well have people remember you with what little time you have left. There's the sense of it's all going to be gone, so I'm going to make my mark on the world there.
If the world is ending, what motivation do characters have to keep going and do
Mm.
something about it? Because if it's gonna end, I'm gonna just as well enjoy myself and wait. Why not?
And a lot of the aristocrats think exactly that, right? Like, oh, the world is ending. Well, I'm going to have as many parties as I can. I can't take the money with me. I may as well spend it in the interim. But here, again, we draw on some of that World of Darkness stuff with, Vampire had Gehenna, had the night when all the vampires are going to rise. And, Werewolf had the looming apocalypse. And, you get this sort of external actor that provides tension to the setting. And really, in the audio drama that Rachel produced, there's a fantastic line in it that I love when one of the characters is being asked, well, why do you care? Why do you do this? And she says, I don't even know if I will live long enough to have gray hair, but I know that I want what's best for this person I love. And so, there's this sense of you don't know how much time you've got left. You might as well use it to be with the people you love or to make something that has lasting value, with an asterisk, however long lasting equals, right? Do you want to just fritter it away? Well, probably not. That's probably not what makes a player character, right? That's a great NPC who wants to squander all the money. But for a player who's marked by their efforts to change the world, because players are agents of change, what are you going to do with that time you've got left?
Okay, that makes perfect sense. What kind of characters, talking about that, can people create in my beautiful room?
Yeah, so we've got those three different social factions going on. We've got the aristocrats, and each of those, the aristocrats has 5 different families in it. Each of the families has a distinct personality, a distinct character. There's the Galdepark, who they are wealth. They don't just have a lot of money; they are the idea of wealth. And you have groups, families like the Astus Willow, who think, "Oh, this ruin, can we turn it to our advantage? How can we take this horrible thing and make a benefit out of it?" Or we've got the Belafine, who are very logistically organized, very militaristic. So those are your aristocrats there, right? They're the ones who have all the money, all the wealth, all the estates. In game terms, they have portfolio. They have a lot of things that give them external benefits. You've got money, you've got wardrobe, you've got tools. You're always on the guest list, things like that. And then one of the other groups, the other faction, is the true folk. And the true folk are the people who make or do or create for a living. They keep the world running. And these have guilds. And so you've got, the expected guilds like the hospitality group, which is the League of Glove and Key. These are the butlers and the valets and the servants. But there are also people who run the inns and the stores and, brothels. There's no government in the world, so there's no illegality. If it exists and society permits it, great, there you go. So there's not this kind of stigma around sex work. So all of that is League of Glove and Key. And then, one of the other factions, one of the other guilds is the Rivet and Bellows Union. They're the ones who build and make. If you need a wall built in your house, you hire these guys. If you need the electricity run, you hire them. If there's a weird wall in your house and you hear this banging behind it and you're wondering what's going on, you probably hire them to knock it down. There's separate groups of the academics. There are creatives and artistes. There's the people who work on contracts. So that's all the true folk. And then that third group is the unbonded. These are the rebels. They want to save the world or rebel against the prevailing social order. But of course, when you say save the world, what do they want to do? Is it something that's so radically different it's just going to make people miserable in the time they have left? Or is it going to be, oh my gosh, we found the solution and everything is wonderful with the time that we've got left, but nobody wants to give them a chance, right? They're always pushed to the edge of society. And so those are your 3 big player groups there. They're all human. You choose a house, a royal or an aristocratic family to belong to, or a true folk guild, or one of the unbonded archetypes. And then so your conflicts emerge between people there, sort of, I don't want to call it intra-party conflict. You're not trying to necessarily backstab each other or murder each other, but there's always things that are providing tension to those sort of external threats. Someone else, another rich family, might be trying to buy your estate out from under you, or you in the core rulebook. One of the starter story assumes, hey, you're given this house now. Oh my gosh, there's this horrible monster in the basement. Now what do you do? At the same time, you're trying to restore this house and elevate it to prosperity while you've got this horrible thing dwelling in the basement, right?
Okay. Are there any other type of characters other than human, or is it just humans for the time being?
Yeah, we went back and forth on this a lot. In fact, one of the things that we had talked about with one of the groups we were working with to help publish the video game was they wanted to, and potentially there was DLC for this. Like, can you play the monster? And of course, with a World of Darkness background, you would expect, yes, of course you could play the monster. But right now, we want to keep the focus on the humans. We want those human stories very front and center. And you can do that however you like. You can be one of the humans who may be threatened by ruin, right? Maybe you are 2/3 of the way to being lost to monstrosity or something like that. But the focus is definitely on human stories.
Okay. Now, there is this Kickstarter that we spoke at the beginning of the interview. Why? Why going from having the core rulebook already published and looking beautiful to doing a starter set? What's driving the existence of this starter set?
Yeah, we did. Like we said, we initially published that tabletop role-playing game as a full $60 core rulebook. The PDF is free. It's always free. You can go grab it at DriveThruRPG. It will always be free. But it has those same sort of expectations that we talked about earlier, where okay, now somebody has to be the game master and they've got to set up the story and then we've got to arrange time. Whereas with the starter set, it's set up to be very pick it up and run friendly. So, it's 3 very small books. There is an abridged set of rules, so you don't need the entire rule book. There is the starter story, which is ready to basically pick up and run. The GM should give it a read beforehand, or at least, one scene ahead. And then the third book in the slipcase is the set of handouts. So it includes pre-generated characters. It includes, the clues and mysterious things that you're going to find during the course of the story. Portraits and letters and a hand-drawn map and things like that. And so, the starter set is boom, ready to go, and it's even less expensive than the printed core rulebook is, of course, right? It's the starter, the game itself is book. We're still nailing down the final price on the book because we're worried about tariffs and how we have to handle that, where that needs to go. I know that's a question coming up. I know we will
Yeah,
get there.
well,
It's a fair question.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, for those of us who are outside the US, and even for you being in the US, because where are you going to manufacture all this?
Yeah. All of that is still being decided. We've got this being costed out. We're working with a consultant group that's going to help us not only do fulfillment, but get it manufactured in the first place. And so the starter set is probably a $30 to $35 project. So half the price of the core book, which again is just enough to get your feet wet. Do we want to try all this? It's the cost of going out and having a fast food dinner, right? You can't say a sit down meal anymore because that's
Yeah,
$100
no,
in the United States.
but I think it's a very fair. It's a very fair indeed price. But I mean, are you worried about what happens if this Kickstarter finishes, is very successful, because it is going to be very successful, and then you get hit by tariffs? This is a very um, tricky time to set up a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we are absolutely upfront with as we launch the Kickstarter campaign. We mentioned that there is some volatility here, but so far, we have been able to print and fulfill with partners internally for the US and also externally. We've got a partner in, so far, the UK who has handled all of the EU distribution. We've got some outliers. We've got, in fact, somebody in Australia that we had to make a special case for. But, for the most part, these are going to be dealt with as compartmentalized as possible. And also, we're specifically setting it up. There's a reason we're not doing a full traditional box set, because in terms of tariffs, all of a sudden a box set with dice, etc., is a quote unquote game. Whereas for us, we are printing these specifically as 3 different books in a slipcase, and so they count as books. We are able to navigate the tariffs with the fact that these are books first, and they just happen to include a game, as opposed to it's a boxed game.
When is the desired delivery date for this project?
Yeah, that's another great question, because logistics are still up in the air as well. We have the contents of the book are fully complete. It's all written. All of the art is done and available. It is copy edited. It is currently in layout. And our intentions with layout and production is to have that done by, hopefully, I'm knocking on wood over here, the end of October. That may slide a little bit depending on where the graphic designers able to find their time, but that's all going to be ready to hand off to the printer at the end of October. So I would look for this to be delivered hopefully as late as the middle of next year, depending on the timetable. But getting that off to print, it should not take a huge amount of time to print. Of course, shipping, logistics, transport is the big question mark there.
And who knows, maybe in the next few months things will come back to a little bit of normalcy, and the stupid tariffs will have at least normalized or gone away even. Why not?
Hope so. I hope so.
In terms of the continuity of the game lying itself, because I'm very, I mean, obviously you must have some plans because you have transmedia, which means that this project is going to have very long legs for the future. But what are you planning for the TTRPG for people who buy this starter set and the core rulebook? What else are they going to be getting in the future?
Yeah, good question. We have a few supplements printed so far that we call Whisper, and Whisper is this in-world magazine. And so the supplements that we publish are excerpts from the Whisper magazine, almost like a Reader's Digest for the world. And so they show you a little bit more about who's who. The first three of them had recipes and fashion spreads, and some introductions to signature characters. We're doing another few of these Whispers to help round out some of the details of the world. They show you things like secret societies or lesser families that are part of the greater aristocratic families that kind of give more diversity to the high concepts for each of those families. Secrets of the world, these kind of plots that you can uncover and then either participate in as a character or the GM can use them as background elements. Oh, this plot came to fruition and now this person's in charge of the family. And so, those are very kind of lore, they're driven, they're very diegetic, they're very in-world. And to complement these, I want to eventually get to a kind of sibling version of this called Venture in comparison to Whisper. And Venture is the more kind of mechanics focused or kind of behind the GM screen systems and perhaps pre-written stories, things like that, where we can kind of take you sequentially through those. So there's the lore and world building stuff, which is planned to be separate from the systems and story traditional supplemental stuff. And I love how we're publishing these. These are like little 6x9 volumes. I know zines are really hot in games right now, right? I love things like Mothership is all zines, right? And I love that presentation. And so we're doing these supplements all in that kind of very portable zine format. And also they're $10 a piece. It's not like we're asking you for a $60 book and then another $60, then another $60. These are very kind of a la carte, choose what you want.
And it would be really cool to see at some point on some sort of omnibus where you can put the whole thing in a big, massive volume, and then people, if they want to, they can pay, bigger money for something very, I don't know, really collector's edition kind of box set or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's a good way to kind of collect out of print issues, if we ever get to that, that point and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think that would be good. And now, last question, and I know that you're going to have it very, 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 very difficult to answer this question for me. But before I ask, any is not an answer. Okay, so you can't say, "Oh, any." No. I'm sorry. I'm not. No. Which one of the streaming platforms would you like to handle the series? Because this is begging for one. So Netflix or HBO, Prime, Disney, Paramount. Which one will you want them to handle the production of the TV series?
Boy, that is a great question, and since any is not a fair answer, I guess let me walk through them a bit here. One of the shows that I'm watching currently, of course, is Gilded Age on HBO, which is done by Julian Fellows, who's the same one who did Downton Abbey. So I think there's a very strong kind of prestige TV attitude that would fit very well with HBO, and they've taken risks in the past with things like Games of Thrones, so I think that's a good fit. If it were up to me, I would say maybe even Apple TV Plus, because I think they've got some deep pockets, and we could definitely use those for some wonderful special effects and casting. But it feels overall, like in terms of subscribers and in willing to take risks, it feels like HBO might be the strongest one there. We might find some shared themes with other shows in their catalog.
Well, and I was thinking they already have the costumes and they have the locations, so they already have some of the work done for them. So, I mean, what are they waiting for? They should be calling you by now. Justin, thank you very much indeed for being with me today. I really hope that the starter set of Brilliant Ruins is going to be absolutely smashing it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it breaks an awful lot of stretch goals, which I know we haven't spoken about, but people can take a look at them on the
campaign. Yep.
Exactly. So and they will be surprised by that, I'm sure. And I really hope that it is a ginormous success, and we can chat about it in the future when you deliver everything and we have managed to get rid of those pesky tariffs.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Paco. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you.